These machines ran 1,000,000 miles before most modern trucks hit their second oil change. They crossed deserts, climbed mountain passes, and hauled America's entire economy on their steel frames. No computers, no sensors, no electronic safety nets. Just iron, diesel, and the kind of engineering that simply does not exist anymore. We're going back to the golden age of the big rig from the 1940s through the 1980s to count down the 10 vintage semi-trucks that were built to last forever. Number 10. The Diamond TI-21. 1950s–1960s. Let's start our countdown with a truck that its era called the Cadillac of heavy haulers. The Diamond T921. The Diamond T Motor Car Company was founded in Chicago in 1905 by C.A. Tilt, a man who reportedly said, quote, "A truck doesn't have to be homely," and he meant it. Diamond T trucks were never short on style, with flowing fender lines, aggressive grills, and rakish cabs. But the 921 series wasn't just beautiful, it was brutally capable. The Model 921 was Diamond T's flagship long-haul tractor of the 1950s. It could be ordered with a Spicer 5-speed or 12-speed synchro-mesh transmission with a 2-plate clutch. What made the 921 legendary was an option that no other truck on the market offered at the time: the Presto-Matic semi-automatic transmission. This was a driver-activated button that could turn the standard manual gearbox essentially into a semi-automatic. A sensing mechanism synchronized the clutch action to engine speed for gear changes, allowing the engine to build to full torque after clutch engagement without the driver touching any additional controls. In an era when drivers were shifting 10, 15, even 20 gears manually, this was nothing short of revolutionary. Diamond T built approximately 250,000 trucks across its entire production history, before eventually being merged into Diamond Rio in 1967. But the 921 series stands apart as one of the finest long-haul machines of its era, and surviving examples are today prized collector items at truck shows across the country. Number 9. The Freightliner WFT series. 1954, late 1960s. Most people don't know that Freightliner didn't start as a truck manufacturer. It started as a trucking company's solution to a problem. In 1940, Leland James, president of Consolidated Freightways, conceived of a lighter, more compact truck to haul his company's loads and increase net payload. The result was an all-aluminum cab, incredibly short and compact, first built in 1942. By 1949, Freightliner sold its first truck to a customer outside of Consolidated Freightways, to Portland-based forklift manufacturer Hister. That very first truck is now preserved in the Smithsonian Collection in Washington, D.C. In 1951, Freightliner entered into a distribution agreement with White Motor Company, one of the largest truck manufacturers in the United States at the time. White sold Freightliner cab-over-engine trucks under the White Freightliner co-branding, and in 1954, the original shovel-nose cab was retired in favor of the iconic WFT series, which was even more compact and aerodynamically efficient for the era. Then came 1958, when the WFT became available as a 90-degree tilt cab, a massive development for mechanics who previously had to access the engine through small side panels. For the first time, you could tilt the entire cab forward and work on the engine as if it were out in the open. What made the WFT series legendary was the engineering philosophy behind it. These trucks were built with aluminum cabs and frames, at a time when everyone else was using heavy steel. They were lighter than their competitors, which meant more payload capacity. On the West Coast, where length regulations were more generous, operators ran these trucks with long wheelbases. On the East Coast, the short cab allowed operators to haul a 35-foot trailer and still comply with tight length laws. This flexibility made the White Freightliner WFT one of the most geographically adaptable trucks ever built. Number 8. The Autocar DC 100. 1940s–1970s. If you ask any old-school trucker what the toughest, most indestructible semi-truck ever built was, a significant number of them will say one word: Autocar. And specifically, many will point to the DC series, which had its roots in the late 1930s and carried on through the 1970s as the backbone of some of the most extreme trucking operations in North American history. Autocar introduced the DC conventional as its premier severe-duty diesel-powered work truck in 1939. The DC100, which emerged as the definitive version of this line in the 1940s and 1950s, was not built for comfort or style. It was built to survive. One contemporary description of the Autocar DC100, he read, "Everything about the Autocar is tough, and everything about the Autocar is geared to unusually harsh, even hazardous conditions." That wasn't marketing language, it was fact. White Motor Company acquired Autocar in 1953, but Autocar continued as its own division. By the 1960s, Autocar was custom engineering some of the largest and most extreme trucks ever assembled. The company's AP series, introduced in 1957, was designed for extreme-duty on- and off-road construction, mining, logging, and oil field applications. The Autocar AP40 had a 40-ton capacity and was, at the time of its introduction, the largest single-engine vehicle in the world. Meanwhile, in highway use, the DC series trucks gained a fierce reputation among truckers who drove them on rugged pre-interstate roads as rough, tough, and virtually unbreakable. Many DC series autocars ran well into the 1970s, 20 years after they rolled off the assembly line, still hauling full loads every day. Number 7. The Mack B61, 1953-1966. Few names in American trucking history carry the weight of Mack. And of all the Mack models ever produced, none is more recognizable to trucking veterans than the B series, and specifically the legendary B61. Produced from 1953 through 1966, the Mack B series outlasted its predecessor, the L series, and gave birth to over 126,745 examples across its 13-year run. Of all B series variants, none was more popular than the B61, which accounted for more than 47,000 units on its own, the single most built model in the entire B series lineup. The B61 carried Mack's iconic bulldog hood ornament as standard equipment, a tradition that gave the brand its nickname on the road. Under that hood sat the Mack Thermodyne diesel, specifically the END 673, an 11-liter inline six-cylinder displacing 673 cubic inches. In naturally aspirated form, it produced between 170 and 211 horsepower. The turbocharged ENDT 673 brought that output up to approximately 220 horsepower. Between 1953 and 1966, an extraordinary 80% of all Mack trucks were equipped with some version of the Thermodyne engine. What made the B61 so durable was the combination of Mack's heavy-duty steel construction and its transmission options, which were genuinely ahead of their time. B-series trucks could be ordered with transmissions delivering as many as 20 forward gear speeds, including the two-stick quadruplex with 20 speeds, the triplex with 15 speeds, and the one-stick 10-speed unishift. With a gross vehicle weight rating of up to 52,000 pounds and a chassis built to absorb decades of punishment, the B61 became the trusted workhorse of construction companies, logging operations, and long-haul freight carriers across North America and beyond. The B61's fame wasn't limited to North America either. In Australia's outback, Northern Territory road train operators used B61 Macks to double their average road speeds compared to the English-made trucks that preceded them. In some of the harshest operating environments on the planet, the B61 proved its worth again and again. Number 6. The Kenworth W900 series, 1956-1961. Before the W900 became the most recognizable name in Kenworth's history, there was the 900 series conventional, introduced in 1956. And 1956 is worth remembering. It was the same year a young rockabilly singer from Mississippi named Elvis Presley was breaking out nationally. While Elvis was reshaping music, Kenworth was reshaping what a heavy-duty conventional truck could be. The 900 series replaced the 500 series that had been in production since 1939. It shared a chassis with the Kenworth cabover of the era, but a forward-tilting fiberglass hood became available as an option for the first time, a feature that mechanics immediately appreciated. The truck featured the characteristic side-opening butterfly hood as its standard setup, a design that had been popular since the earlier Kenworth models. Engine options was standard for the time, with Cummins, Caterpillar, and Detroit diesel all available. But the 900 series larger engine bay meant that higher horsepower options than offered on cabover models were generally accessible. By 1961, Kenworth recognized the need for a significant redesign, and the 900 series gave way to the W900. But the 900 series established the platform and the philosophy that would carry Kenworth to icon status. It proved that a conventional hood truck could compete directly against the cabovers that had dominated the post-World War II American market. It set the foundation. And without it, there is no W900, which means without the 900 series, there is no Smokey and the Bandit, no Movin' On, and no single most iconic big rig silhouette in American trucking culture. Number 5. The Peterbilt 281 351 1954 1976. Pull up a photo of the Peterbilt 281, and you immediately understand where it got its nickname, the Needle Nose. Produced from 1954 to 1976 at Peterbilt's assembly plant in Oakland, California, the 281 and its tandem axle companion, the 351, represented 22 years of continuous production, the longest model run in Peterbilt's history at the time. That number tells you everything you need to know about how operators felt about this truck. The 281's defining feature was its narrow, elongated hood with butterfly-style hood panels that opened like wings for engine access. Drivers loved it because the needle-nose design gave them unobstructed sightlines of the road ahead, visibility that wider-nosed competitors simply couldn't match. The frame was all steel for rigidity, while the cab itself was aluminum construction, keeping weight down without compromising strength. Engine options centered on the Cummins inline-6 diesel, specifically the Cummins NT series, with outputs up to 350 horsepower in turbocharged form. A fuller 13-speed manual transmission was the go-to gearbox for long-haul configurations. The 281 achieved its greatest cultural moment in 1971, when director Steven Spielberg, just 23 years old at the time, selected a 1955 Peterbilt 281 tanker truck as the villain of his made-for-television film Duel. Spielberg chose the 281 after reviewing 7 different semi-truck options. He was drawn to the 281's elongated needle-nose hood, its split windshield, and its round headlights, which he described as giving the cab a menacing face reminiscent of a snarling predator. Production used 3 separate Peterbilt 281 trucks to handle the demanding stunt sequences filmed over 11 days on California's highways. A crew of 7 to 8 workers applied dirt and grime daily using brushes and mops, transforming the truck into what Spielberg described as a grisly and horrible monster. The 351, the tandem axle version, actually outlasted the 281 in the marketplace. Both were retired in 1976, replaced by the newer 358 and 359 as Peterbilt's highway tractors of choice. But by 1976, the 281 and 351 had already cemented their place in trucking history, and surviving examples still draw crowds at truck shows today. Number 4. The Mack R series, 1965-2000. When Mack introduced the R series in 1965, it was simultaneously one of the most significant updates in the company's history and one of the most important developments in North American trucking as a whole. The B series had been a successful workhorse from 1953 until 1966, but it was overdue for improvements in driver comfort and safety. The R series addressed all of those concerns and then some. Mack introduced the 2 model lines in overlapping production, running the B series and R series simultaneously to ease the transition for loyal customers. The most significant visual change was the R series new cab. While maintaining the same width as the B series, the interior height was raised considerably, and the windshield adopted an almost vertical angle, which dramatically increased driver visibility. The driver's seat became height adjustable for the first time, and sound-deadening materials were used throughout the cab interior, a major improvement over the loud, vibrating steel cabs that drivers had tolerated for decades. But the most transformative engineering decision was under the hood, literally. The R series abandoned the B series conventional hood and fenders, which limited engine bay access, in favor of a one-piece fiberglass hood hinged at the front. This single design decision, gave mechanics and drivers unprecedented access to every mechanical component under the hood. Tilted forward, and the entire engine, cooling system, and front drivetrain components were accessible from every angle. Mack claimed this design became the industry standard, and that claim is backed up by history, because every major American truck manufacturer eventually adopted tilt-hood configurations. Like the B series before it, the R series was powered by Mack's own Thermodyne engine family in its early years, with Cummins options available for operators who wanted more output. What made the R series truly legendary, however, was longevity. Production of the R series continued well into the 21st century, over 35 years of production, making it one of the longest-running heavy truck model lines in American history. Mack built the R series into a machine that operators simply refused to give up, and for good reason. Number 3. The International Harvester Transstar CO4070A, 1968-1970s. By the late 1960s, International Harvester had refined its cab-over-engine lineup into one of the most capable and durable platforms in the business, the Transstar. Specifically, the CO4070A model, introduced for 1968 as an update to the CO4000, became one of the most respected highway tractors of its era, featuring a large trapezoidal grille that would define international cabovers for decades to come. The Transstar CO4070A was distinguished from its predecessor by its standard engine, the turbocharged IHC-DVT 573 diesel V8, with optional Cummins and Detroit diesel engines available for operators who had preferences. For 1970, International expanded the Transstar lineup with one of the most extreme factory-spec semi-trucks ever offered to highway operators. The Super Transstar featured a Detroit diesel 12V71, a V12 diesel engine, and was rated for loads of up to 144,000 pounds. That was not a construction spec. That was a highway spec. That was a truck built to move nearly 72 tons down America's emerging interstate highway system. What gave the Transstar its durability reputation was the combination of International Harvester's engineering heritage and the quality of the major drivetrain components available. The DVT 573 turbocharged V8 was a robust, field-proven engine, and the Cummins inline-six options that many operators chose were among the most reliable diesel engines ever put into a commercial vehicle. The Transstar CO4070A's cab was wide. The visibility was excellent for a cab-over design, and the truck proved capable of handling sustained high-mileage commercial work in ways that impressed operators year after year. If the Transstar CO4070A needs any further cultural testament to its toughness, consider this. It was the truck used in the climactic tanker chase sequence in James Cameron's 1984 film The Terminator. When a filmmaker needs a truck that looks like it cannot be destroyed, they reach for the Transstar. Number 2. The Peterbilt 359, 1967-1987. In 1967, Peterbilt introduced a truck that would go on to become arguably the most beloved conventional highway tractor in American trucking history. The Model 359 was Peterbilt's first true long-hood truck, wider grilled than its predecessor, the 358, built to accommodate larger diesel engines and designed from the ground up to be Peterbilt's top-of-the-line conventional highway truck. Between 1967 and 1987, Peterbilt produced the 359 over a 20-year run that made it a genuine legend of the road. The 359 was spec'd with a standard Caterpillar 3406B engine, producing 425 horsepower, mated to an Eaton Fuller 13-speed transmission. It featured tandem rear axles, standard airleaf suspension, and a 250-inch wheelbase with a gross vehicle weight of 50,000 pounds. But those numbers only tell part of the story. The 359's real advantage was what Peterbilt called its spec flexibility. The engine compartment was large enough to accommodate almost any engine and transmission combination an operator wanted to order. This made the 359 adaptable to logging, produce hauling, flatbed work, tanker operations, and virtually any other specialized application. As a result, its resale value was consistently excellent, even in a market flooded with used heavy equipment. In 1972, Peterbilt redesigned the cab for the 359, replacing the older Unilite cab with the new 1100 series cab named for its 1,100 square inches of windshield glass. The new design was taller, with redesigned doors, an all-new interior, and dramatically increased window space. In 1974, a setback front axle was added. In 1977, Peterbilt assembled its 100,000th vehicle, and it was a long-hood Model 359. That same year, an optional 63-inch sleeper cab with walk-through entry became available for the first time on the model line. When Peterbilt announced the discontinuation of the 359 in the mid-1980s, it triggered a buying frenzy. Operators who had driven 359s for years rushed to order one before they were gone, mistakenly believing that the long-hood conventional was being abandoned entirely. What Peterbilt had actually done was improve the design and the quality control and use that as the foundation for the 379 that followed. The final 8,844 units built in 1987 were special Classic Edition trucks, chromed up, loaded with premium trim, and individually numbered. The numbered Classics could be verified by serial number against a factory list, and authentic examples remain among the most valuable used trucks in existence today. Number 1. The Freightliner FLD120. There is one truck that didn't just survive the transition from the mechanical age to the modern era. It dominated it. One truck that became the bridge between old-school iron and the computerized trucks we see today. And that truck is the Freightliner FLD120. Introduced in 1987, the FLD120 arrived at a time when the trucking industry was changing fast. Aerodynamics were becoming important, fuel prices were rising, and fleets were starting to demand efficiency, but drivers still wanted the durability and serviceability of the old long-hood classics. The FLD120 delivered both, and that's exactly why it became one of the most successful heavy-duty trucks ever built. What made the FLD120 different from everything that came before it was its design philosophy. It looked modern with a sloped hood, aerodynamic lines, and a wide, comfortable cab, but underneath it was still built like the trucks from the golden era. It featured a modular cab design that made repairs faster and easier, and it retained the long hood layout that drivers trusted for engine access and durability. Under the hood, the FLD120 could be spec'd with some of the most reliable diesel engines ever produced: the Detroit Diesel Series 60, the Cummins N14, and Caterpillar's legendary 34006E. These engines were known for running well past 1 million miles with proper maintenance. Paired with Eaton Fuller manual transmissions, the FLD120 became a truck that fleets loved and owner-operators trusted with their livelihoods. Inside the cab, the FLD120 represented a major leap forward in driver comfort. Compared to the loud, cramped interiors of earlier trucks, this was a different world. Air ride seats, improved insulation, better ergonomics, and spacious sleeper configurations meant drivers could spend weeks on the road without the same level of fatigue. It wasn't just a truck anymore, it was a working home. But what truly makes the FLD120 worthy of the #1 spot is its impact. This wasn't just a great truck. It was the truck that defined American highways through the 1990s and early 2000s. It replaced older classics in fleets across the country, and for many drivers, it was the first truck that combined old-school toughness with modern efficiency. Even today, decades after its introduction, the FLD120 is still on the road, hauling freight, crossing states, and proving that it was built to last. It may not have the Hollywood fame of a W900, but in terms of real-world dominance, reliability, and influence, the Freightliner FLD120 stands at the top. If you made it to the end of this video, drop a comment below telling us which one of these 10 trucks you think deserved the #1 spot. If you've ever driven one of these classics, or if your family has history with any of these brands, we want to hear about it. Subscribe if you haven't already, because there's a lot more trucking history coming. And until next time, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down.